Hi.
Here we
Hello,
go.
everybody. Welcome to this Sunday's episode of Faces of Stone, the Star Wars edition, where every other Sunday up until the Rise of Skywalker, we're going to be here covering everything Star Wars front to back and in between. And today, of course, we're going to be doing Attack of the Clones. I am Amanda Sisk. Of the three of us, if we all got in a trivia contest, I would be the one knocked out very first. I got into the game late, but I love action figures. With me is Noah Diamond. Say something, Noah.
Hi, I'm Noah.
He, as a child, was drawn to the Star Wars saga because of his uncanny resemblance to Harrison Ford. So uncanny that when he and Harrison Ford finally met face to face, Harrison just responded by saying, "What is this, a mirror? Get this fucking mirror out of my face." That's Noah Diamond. Marc-Anthony Macon. Marc-Anthony, you say something now.
Something now.
Yeah. He was born the son of a poor moisture farmer. Blue milk runs in his veins. He's been knocking around from system to system, trying to find the right place, gathering knowledge of the Force, and selling paintings of fried eggs. He now resides in the Midwest, passing along his knowledge and spending time with his close friend and roommate, Jar Jar Binks.
Me and JJ.
Yes, that close. And so that said, here we are, and we're ready to talk about Attack of the Clones.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. So before we get into everything, I do want to talk about the premise a little bit of this particular one.
Okay.
As the crawl fades up, it says, of course, that the star systems are in dispute and several thousand have left or have threatened to leave. Mm-hmm. My question upon watching it this time was, okay, if there are more than just several thousand, how do you possibly expect to get anything done? How do you possibly expect this Republic to work? How can anything move when there are thousands upon thousands of systems, not even just planets? Thoughts?
It's true that the Republic does seem ridiculously unwieldy, and those scenes in the Galactic Senate, it's gigantic. I mean, the number of those little pods filled with representatives is pretty overwhelming, but it still doesn't necessarily look like several thousand could have departed from the Republic and still have left this many floating around in that room.
Okay. But you think it could be a functioning democracy with that many participants? And why does the Republic care? Who cares?
Maybe it should have been several dozen.
Maybe it should have been. Okay, so we start, and we pan not to a spaceship, but to a planet, the planet of Coruscant.
That's a real departure from every other. Not in every Star Wars film, but almost all of them start with a ship.
Yes, they do. Either panning up or panning down.
Right. So
we get to Coruscant, and let's talk about it.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I love the sound design of the Queen's starship in the beginning of this. It's just really rumbly and evocative to me. I love it.
Yeah, I do like that opening shot. It's true we see a planet first, but then we see a number of ships coming into land there. I love Coruscant itself. I think it's a great location, and the Star Wars of these normal places is really interesting to me. I will talk about them, I'm sure, later. But in this movie, we see a diner, we see a nightclub. It's a little bit like getting to see the cantina in Episode 4. Those places where the people in this universe just pass their day-to-day time.
And part of the fun of Star Wars is the way that it's lived in that way. I think that this is really fun in that way. And I like how Coruscant really, first of all, there's a lot of nods to Blade Runner, and the whole kind of cyberpunk thing is really heavily favored in the design of that. And I think it's really beautiful. And also, just to backtrack a bit, I like that the start of the movie, the first thing we have is the first of many descents. The ship is going below the clouds, and this movie is just full of characters and things going down repeatedly. And that's, I think, a pretty heavy-handed nod at what's going on story-wise.
Interesting. I didn't notice that. Interesting. Okay, so the queen or the senator lands, and Padme's decoy comes onto the landing, and
Corday?
Yes. Padme's really not dressing like that much lately, so a little confusion for me as to why this handmaiden's still dressing as a queen when Padme's not dressing that way as a senator, is she?
She's still kind of dressing a bit flamboyantly, but it's not as hairy. There isn't.
Like that's the queen's deal. Like the queen dress like that.
Right. I agree. It's more queeny than.
Except for, of course, bare feet, which I guess they all run around in.
I had never noticed that until this time. That was weird.
She was either knocked out of her shoes or she was wearing no shoes.
I think we should start a Mandela effect rumor that in the original, people remember her having shoes, and now she doesn't have shoes. I totally remember her having shoes. We all knew she had shoes.
Because I complimented her shoes.
She had.
I tried to get them custom made.
That happens a lot throughout the series, though. It seems like a choice has been made about the way a specific character would dress, and then that choice gets perpetuated sometimes beyond its internal logic. Like in the original Star Wars Episode 4, it seems like Uncle Owen and Luke and Obi-Wan and all the Tatooine characters are dressed in this kind of desert wear, this kind of canvasy stuff with belts, and then in the prequels, and even before the prequels, that becomes kind of the way Jedi dress. Yoda's dressed like that in the original trilogy, and so is Anakin when we see him at the end of Return of the Jedi. But so why does Uncle Owen dress like a Jedi, for example? It's Tatooine garb, and it's also what the Jedi Order seems to favor. So it's like Padme, she wears this Queen Amidala stuff because that's how she was established dressing.
Yeah. Well, also, there was an explosion that kind of killed off the person that looked like that. I think that they were just defining her as taking on a new role. She wasn't the queen anymore. Now she's a senator, and it's a different thing. So they literally blew that idea up in front of our faces.
That's not heavy-handed at all.
There's a pretty heavy hand in this whole shenanigan.
Okay, so I think that Marc-Anthony, you might be able to help me with this most. Tell me about Mr. Mace Windu.
Well, first of all, Mace Windu is a character that the name has been around for a really long time in terms of Star Wars. There was some, I think it was, I probably even have it somewhere if I went to look for it, but there was a character in one of the role-playing games or something that had that name, but was some kind of weird alien. It wasn't in any way Samuel L. Jackson.
I think the name Mace Windu goes back to one of George Lucas's very first treatments, back when it was called The Star Wars, and it was about Luke's Starkiller and the Journal of the Wills and all that early stuff. I think that.
No, that is true. I think that may be true.
Yeah.
But it's an old name, and my understanding is that Jackson went in just saying, I want to play anything, and Lucas was like, here's Mace Windu for you. But are you asking, you're wanting me to nerd out about Mace Windu is what you're asking. What's what you're really asking? Yes,
I want to know who the hell this guy is and what his legacy.
Well, I mean, I think that he's probably one of the more mysterious characters in all of Star Wars. Like he just kind of, he's there, he does exactly what he's supposed to do in most situations, but we don't hear much about his backstory that I know of. Although I'm sure that there are people out there that are like, you haven't read Mace Windu number 502, and we know that he was originally, I'm sorry, I haven't read those comic books for you.
All right. Well,
that said, I will say that, jumping ahead a bit, Mace Windu is one of those characters that I would not believe I could believe is still alive. I could see him showing up in like episode 9 or something.
Well, if Darth Maul got cut in half and he's still alive, then yeah, I can imagine Mace Windu coming back to life. All he did was fall out of a 150 story window.
Right. Surely he could have just grabbed onto a flying droid. We've seen this happen.
We've seen that before. Yes.
Yeah, he only had one arm, but come on, you only need one arm to grab a flying droid.
You know what? Half the people in this movie have one arm. That's the default injury of choice.
Yeah, it
Oh,
really
I don't
is.
want to kill him. What can I do?
Cut his
Chop
arm off.
off the arm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's
There's a limb
What they're
thing going on.
I'm surprised we didn't see that. The younglings learning that left arm,
Yeah.
left arm, left arm. I don't know why Yoda was suddenly, speak like this.
His arm cut off, you will.
Yes.
Well, in episode 3, Palpatine explaining to Anakin why his rage against Dooku was justified says he cut off your arm, like as though he's saying he took your parking space.
Yes.
It happens all the time. Okay, so they, the delegation, Queen or Senator Amidala, etc., appear in Palpatine's office, and Yoda greets her and says, "Oh, I'm so happy that you're alive." And she responds like with something snitty and not even a hello or anything. So I just wrote, "No manners, that Padme."
Yes, he says, you brings joy to my heart. And she's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Really bitchy about it.
Yeah.
Why haven't you found the person who did this yet? I just got here. Really, it was. I didn't like it.
No, I agree. And in fact, on this viewing, I found that, because I think in a lot of the past times I've had like a lot of sympathy for Padme and feeling like she got a raw deal. Like she was a really good person who kind of ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time and trying to do her best. Bad things happen.
Natalie Portman or Padme?
Padme.
Okay. It could be.
It could be both. It could be. I haven't met Natalie. I don't know.
Trying to make the best of a bad situation.
But this time around, I just feel like at best, she is ignoring some horrible red flags, and in fact, every interaction she has with Anakin is just red flags, like right in her face. Like, whoa, look, come on, Padme, this is. And she not only doesn't heed them, she dives right into them. So I think like that and some of the other choices she made are clearly, she's to blame for a lot of things too.
I think the arrogance of the Jedi is a real thing. And in this particular scene too, it's sort of Yoda is obviously suspicious of Palpatine.
Yes.
And he notes that the dark side clouds everything, but everyone just goes on trusting Palpatine for now, until we get some reason, like a really ominous soundtrack. And it's kind of similar when Padme expresses her concern that Count Dooku is behind the separatist movement, which he is. Yes. The Jedi just wave that aside, he's a
Jedi. He's a political idealist.
He could never do that. That's not his character.
Yeah, don't you realize he used to be a Jedi? Well, that describes every horrible, evil person we've met in the
So last night we watched some of Mr. Plinkett's reviews. Is that how you say it, Noah? Which is, for anyone who doesn't know, it's this person who started doing these reviews of the prequels, and the reviews ended up being almost like more than half as long as the movies. So he chopped them up into chunks, and they became viral. I'm coming in very late to the party. We read about these and we watched some of them last night. Some are very, very funny. Some parts are not so funny. But one thing that he said that I just had to write down, I didn't want to reference him too much during this, though he says things in ways that I would never have thought of saying them. They're just perfect. I would encourage you all to watch a few. Why the hell is Jimmy Smits in this movie?
What? Why the hell isn't Jimmy Smits in every movie?
I want in this Jimmy movie, he just like stands in the background and looks unnerved, and it's like I totally understand.
But I want to be able to add Jimmy Smits into anything unnerved at the ending.
That's fine. Then I just need some consistency. I need us to meet somewhere in the middle. I don't need like Jimmy Smits in 2 scenes looking grim. Oh. So that, it's like a little fan spit. They just like spit at us with a little. They're like, oh, look, Jimmy Smits, he's here. You can like this movie now. Anyway, why is Jimmy Smits in this movie? Do you have any thoughts about Jimmy Smits just appearing?
I don't, but I mean, he's not given much to do in this movie at all. In episode 3, he has a little bit to do.
Yes.
Bail Organa, though, is a character we've been curious about since the original trilogy. And I like the fact that he pops up in Rogue One later. It's one of those times when the current new generation of Star Wars movies acknowledge the prequels in a nice way. I don't know. I don't object to his presence. I agree that he doesn't have a whole lot of interesting things to say or do in this, especially in this episode, but that he's not alone there.
Stiff competition, Jimmy, step aside.
Yes. Okay, so then they go to Padme's house after they've decided that, they just decided that Padme needs more security.
With that, can we talk a little bit about the scene with Anakin and Obi-Wan in the elevator? This is our...
Yes, that's kind of where I'm getting to.
Okay.
When they're going up the elevator to Padme's house.
Oh, to her house in Coruscant, yes.
Yeah, but before we do that, let's talk about, so you need more protection, and Senator Palpatine in his extremely long con says, why don't we get you Obi-Wan, knowing that he'll bring Anakin, knowing that his plan is still being fulfilled. I mean, he's got this like 80-year plan. You know, we also come up with 5-year plans and we can't stick to them. This guy has like a 150-year plan and it's perfect. So he gets, he convinces them that it's their idea. And so these two guys go to Padme's house. And yes, the elevator. What were you going to say about that, Mr. Diamond?
Well, it's our first glimpse of Anakin Skywalker as played by, what's the name?
Hans Christian Andersen. Enter Hans Christian Andersen as Anakin.
I think it's Hayden Christensen.
Hans Christian Andersen.
And Ewan McGregor, who we last saw in episode 1 as basically a very young man. Now, 10 years later, he's looking ever more like someone who might grow into Alec Guinness one day.
And speaking a lot more like someone who might grow into Alec Guinness someday. There are a few of his lines that are really very dead on Guinness. Yeah.
I find his performance, one of the successes of the prequels in general, but he gets better each movie. And I think that's true of almost everything. But many have wondered why we needed episode 1 at all from a story point of view. And it's hard to argue against that. I mean, meeting Anakin in this movie, it doesn't feel like we know him from a previous film, really. And everybody we meet, we are meeting them for the first time, or we might as well be. And this kind of Anakin and Obi-Wan at this age, at this time in their lives, this is sort of what we always thought the prequels would be about.
I mean, I do like the idea that theoretically we're supposed to meet this completely innocent little boy that we don't have strong feelings about, although I think that a lot of people had very strong feelings about 9-year-old Anakin. And how you could go from that into this, complete jerk-off.
Is there anything that's established in episode 1 that you need to know in order to, appreciate?
No, but you could say that for almost any Star Wars movie. I think if you watch almost any Star Wars movie without seeing any previous Star Wars movies, you're basically going to be able to intuit the most important stuff that came immediately before.
Okay. But is there anything that we really carry into episode 2 with us? Is there anything we really take with us and say, okay, this knowledge is going to help build on something? Not just that we could watch an episodic thing and it would stand up by itself, but just that, like when you go into Empire, if you've seen
that you had like a pretty much like stable galaxy, that this little trade dispute erupted into all kinds of stuff because there was a machination behind it. Plus, it also establishes the world in a way that it's a lot squeaky cleaner than episode 2. I mean, I really think that like Phantom Menace is what you're supposed to show a kid to get them excited about Star Wars without getting too into their heads. There's some races, there's some aliens, stuff explodes, robots. Few poop jokes, we're good to go. You ready for bed, kid?
Again, I just want to. I'm not distracting. I'm just playing my bingo game again.
Oh,
are you playing bingo again? Last episode?
Yeah, I mean, I could. You're not. There's no way you're gonna say all this stuff. It's just like ridiculous for me to even try. But because I can write things that I know you're gonna say, but I mean, all right. So they're in the elevator. They're going up to see Padme. He's really like sweaty and whatnot, and Obi-Wan is kind of putting this out there as a kind of boys will be boys kind of thing, you know, pubescent boy, I'm going to laugh at him, I'm going to giggle at him. But again, Mr. Plinkett had something to say, and it's true, you know, it's not like even Catholic priests who decide later I'm going to be chaste. It's, you know, do they take the midichlorian counts, turn these into childlings or younglings while they're little babies, and then expect them to be chaste for the rest of their life? And then if so, how do they deal with stuff like this with Anakin like being all prepubescent? Is it just something we laugh at or not? So it seems interesting that Anakin knows he's supposed to, you know, not fall in love or whatever, but he's so open with it about it with Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's so casual about it.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's necessarily supposed to be sexually chaste. I just think they're not supposed to form attachments.
Oh, interesting. So we're looking at kind of a Brave New World kind of thing here.
And I think they can even have children. They're just not a part of their family's lives unless their children become Jedi.
Really?
Yeah.
What do
So
you think of
it's
that,
fine to have a family as long as you abandon it.
More or less, yes. Which, I mean, you know, it's very clear we could say, like, the Jedi are to blame for, you know, all of these things that Anakin eventually visited upon the galaxy. Because had they, at the very least, just said, you know what, we also went, we bought your mom from Watto, we took her to a safe place, she's living with these monks that do really nice chants on this planet, you can't visit her, but she's very happy and very safe. He probably wouldn't have been so fucked up.
Sure.
He didn't have to be attached to her. He just didn't have to be worried about her all the time.
True.
So they messed up, the Jedi.
Well, he's clearly attached to Padme still.
Yes.
And he gets there and he sees Mr. Binks.
Yes.
And what else happens?
He sees Padme for the first time, and she remarks on, she says, "My goodness, you've grown." The first of 2 times that this movie invites us to laugh at the fact that the last time we saw these 2 characters, he was played by a little boy. And the other one is later on. She says, "You've changed, you know, so much." And he says, "You haven't changed at all."
It's all very creepy.
So they get there in the security, they set the security up and blah blah blah. They're gonna stay, they're gonna take care of her. And and then we have our little spat, our little lover's quarrel between Anakin and Obi-Wan about their mandate there. And so It's really not about their mandate, it's more about who has power and who does not. So this is our first inkling of
it made Jar Jar Binks awkward, so
and if it can make that
felt
guy
like
awkward.
uncomfortable. Like this is someone has crossed a line here. Misa can't take it.
Exactly. So that's the first time we see that, right? That kind of
like disobedience and kind of flagrant.
I know more than you. I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
Challenge you.
And in that elevator scene, we get a little bit of that. You know, I rescued you from that nest of Gundarks. And in fact, in general, the time that Obi-Wan and Anakin spend together in these 2 movies, they are generally bickering. Oh, and they're bickering about Anakin's, you know, recklessness. It is a little bit like the way Luke was always accused of recklessness by Obi-Wan and Yoda in the original films. That's what they mainly talk about. Anakin, like, not playing on the straight and narrow, or violating the Jedi, you know, penchant for solemnity.
Or dress code, even. I mean, no Jedi looks like him. Later when he's on his speeder, his really dark speeder, he looks more like Darth Maul than any other character in this, you know, this franchise. Like why does he get to wear black?
All Jedi go through a goth phase. It's required. They have to.
They
It's
listen
sort
to
of like
Ministry.
the Amish Rama Spring version of Jedi. Like they
understand.
They
Well,
spent
they
one
would
year running around in combat boots, and you know.
What about the poor goths? I mean, the poor Jedi who just want to be hippies.
This goes back to what I was saying before. Star Wars characters, they wear variations, but they always wear the same thing. Anakin has to wear black because he will wear black when he's Darth Vader, just like Obi-Wan in these prequels, he wears the same color robe that he's wearing in episode 4. You make a color choice, and that's it.
All right. Yeah, I guess so. There's a cat who desperately wants to get in this room. I see a little paws coming under my doorway. A little paws sticking into the door. So, Padme, how do we feel like she's looking these days? We haven't really talked about that. She doesn't look much older than she did in the first one.
No, she hasn't changed. Anakin was right about that.
Okay, yeah.
I guess I dig her wardrobe in this installment. I would watch a whole, Padme fashion show.
I don't like the frizzy shit they did with the front of her hair, but that's really just kind of a trigger for me personally.
She does have she's evolving toward the Princess Leia side buns hairdo.
Yes, she is. She's got this.
She will finally have that look in episode 3 eventually. But yeah, in this episode, in contrast to episode 1, she's starting to have like side things going on. And some of the Naboo sequences, I think she has side buns that are in these.
They're right over her ears. How can you deal with that? Isn't it muffled? Like, at least, carries are higher.
Yes, as with so many Star Wars conventions, Spaceballs really gave us the last word on that, as we will discuss in our Spaceballs episode later this year.
Yes, we will.
No, I think she looks great, and I like the white outfit that she's wearing later in the movie, not just for the obvious reasons anyone would, but because it suggests some of the Princess Leia looks from Empire Strikes Back.
Well, especially when they're in the foundry, and they're on the door, hanging on the door, and she's standing there in white, and he's standing there, in kind of a Jedi outfit, and then or kind of a Luke outfit. It really plays back to Leia, who Leia was.
That's the thing about Anakin's black wardrobe. It's a lot like Luke's in the early scenes in Return of the Jedi. Actually, in all of Return of the
Jedi, yeah.
Yeah.
True. So they decide they're going to sit there and take care of Padme. It looks like it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon outside, so she says she's going to retire. It takes a long time to get all this shit off. She covers up the cameras, and then we see someone talking to a bounty hunter about how
I think Jango Fett.
Jango Fett talking to Zam Whistle.
Zev? Is that it, or Zed? Zev?
I think it's Zam. But
okay.
I could be wrong. Hang on, I have a guide here.
It's that Australian accent. I just can't understand it at all. Just kidding, Australians. To offend.
Yep, there she is. Zam.
Yeah, Zam. Okay. Well, Zam, I don't know why, Plinkett, again, says, why did he hire Zam? He seems to be a pretty good assassin himself. And there's also the question of why release these things through the window when you could just shoot her through the window, maybe. But let's move past that, unless we want to discuss it and talk about these things that he says, okay, my client's getting upset. His client is presumably Palpatine?
No, I think his client is Dooku. I suppose ultimately his client is Palpatine, but Palpatine is giving Dooku the orders. So, I think that this is kind of just a situation of nefarious people removing their direct hand from their actions in a chain.
The mob.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like how in Twin Peaks: The Return, Mr. C has all these agents carrying out his will.
Yeah. Mr. C is just the Darth Sidious of Twin Peaks.
He is. Long con. Okay, good. So all right.
Oh, yeah. So they charge in there, and Anakin slices those little bugs in half.
No, this is another thing I don't watch well, and I don't like the noise at all. But it's like the frog moth. I don't like. I've seen it before. I have seen these before, but I no longer will watch them.
So when you're watching it, do you look down at your paper, your notes, or whatever?
I look down.
And you listen and you wait until you hear the last of the bug slicing.
Yep, I'll look at Noah. Or
Okay.
look down, and then I hear.
What I found odd about that scene is that it didn't seem like any motive had been established for let's just kill these beings in their own home. I mean, it was like they kind of like broke into this place. And so, of course, the people that live there are going to be like, hey, what the hell? And then you just start cutting them in half. Well, they're all going to attack you then. Like, these just seemed like innocent bugs to me.
Was the idea that the bugs were going to kill her?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The bugs were going to... Okay. You were breaking into their hive.
Wait, no, we're talking about the worms. The worms that go in to kill Padme.
Oh, I was going to Geonosis.
Yes, no.
Oh, those bugs.
Yes, no, those bugs are fucking awful. I hate those fucking bugs. But yes, the worms I can't watch.
Okay.
Until he goes, and then they go splat, splat.
Yeah, but can we talk about how Freudian that scene is?
Really? Yes. Like, okay,
I mean, like there are basically a couple of penises crawl onto her bed, and then she's saved by the bad boy with his penis.
Yep.
Glowing.
She's covered up all the cameras, and she's bait.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncomfortable stuff going on there.
And he slices the other penises with his really big penis.
His much bigger, more powerful penis that didn't have a bunch of legs.
Yes.
Which is always preferable.
Hopefully neither of his has.
Let's hope not.
I mean, I know his lightsaber doesn't, but I don't know what's going on under the tunic. Say.
Similar principle.
Gross, disgusting worm things. The sound is the worst. That's what I've written.
Or do you cover your ears when that comes on?
No, but I try to get through it, but I won't watch it. So they decide this is it. We got to get her the fuck out of here.
Obi-Wan, because I don't care what you guys say, he's the most daring, heroic character in the prequels, jumps through the window, not out, but through the window, smashes right through the glass. Obi-Wan, who moments ago was saying, like, our mandate is not investigation, let's calm down, let's sit down and relax. So he just doesn't even think about it, smashes himself right through the window, grabs the flying droid thing, and, I mean, this is maybe the single most foolish act of courage in the entire saga.
You think?
You guys just think Obi-Wan is a wimp. I just can't believe it. I'm trying to tell you.
I am in no way belittling Obi-Wan Kenobi. I am just saying, I don't know if we're going to be ranking heroic acts.
No,
really, I think,
I'm just having fun with last week, Marc-Anthony, when you said that I kept belaboring the point of Obi-Wan's heroism as though I were being disagreed with. But
well, Obi-Wan should. So tell us more about what happens there now, because I'm going to go take a powder.
Okay, enjoy your powder.
Well, he does that. He jumps through the thing and is hanging onto this, what is it, like a probe droid, like
or some kind of surveillance droid, or maybe a mail delivery droid.
That puts things in through the window. And then there's a very long sequence, this kind of sky over Coruscant chase scene. Yes.
Which, again, I really feel like a lot of it is very Blade Runner in a sense, the kind of flying cars and in nighttime cityscapes and advertising all over. But again, we see a lot of descents here. I mean, it's just kind of the whole scene is a series of moving and descending and moving and descending until they finally hit the ground.
Yeah, some of it seems a little unlikely to me. Like there do seem to be a lot of random falls and leaps and catching of the lightsaber and a lot of wild coincidences in terms of just being lucky enough to throw yourself through space and land where you're landing. But that aside, it's very beautiful visual sequence. And I was thinking, I think episode 2 is kind of, for me, the beginning of the prequels being really visually beautiful to look at. Episode 1 had a lot of great visuals in it, but for me, it sort of adds up to a headache. But episodes 2 and 3 are really just beautiful to look at. just one astounding painting after another.
I mean, I do feel though that we do, in a lot of cases, spend a little too much time in some of those paintings, and this is one of those scenes that, while I think it is really fun and beautiful, and it's just the level of cornball wacky I want, it goes on a little too long.
It goes on a bit.
The chase.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about does it seem to you that the structural hierarchy of the society is based on where you live?
I think, I imagine, well, I mean, at least according to some of the nerdy books I read in, junior high and whatever, yes.
Yesterday.
It's basically the lower you live in Coruscant, the poorer you are. And
I mean, that makes sense, because the lowest part is where people wouldn't have speeders, they would have to walk, they don't have jobs.
They never see sunlight.
Interesting. Do we feel that the man with the death sticks was a funny bit of throwback, or do we feel it was like a gimmicky piece?
It can be both.
Right.
You were very good.
I think that's what it is. It's both. I like it. I mean, we're clearly being reminded of the cantina scene in episode 4, not only by Obi-Wan and the Death Sticks guy, but he cuts off Zam's arm.
He does.
Cut off her arm. What do you need to do? I got a problem with you. I'm going to cut off your arm.
And it is not the only arm cut off in this film.
By no means.
I mean, Jesus.
But also the
arm.
line, why do I get the feeling you're going to be the death of me?
Don't say that, Master. Yep. Terrible. He is. It's going to be the death of
little.
me.
You can also see the guys that play C-3PO and Jar Jar Binks as them, as humans in this scene.
Yep.
Oh, I saw Anthony Daniels, but I didn't.
He turns around when the arm gets chopped off.
Yes.
But that's all I know.
They make horrified looks at dismemberment, as one should.
So Zam, not Zev, Zam, the shapeshifter, gets caught in the bar after. Okay, yesterday, Noah pointed out, was that a CGI woman or a real woman? And I said, what are you talking about? I said, this woman just walked by with red pants and no butt in their pants, or just her butt hanging out. I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. I didn't even see it. I'm sure it was a person. And they pointed it out again. I was like, yeah, that's a person. And then last night we were watching Mr. Plinkett, and they're like, this whole scene sucks except for this woman. And it's the woman with her butt. I had never noticed this before until 2 men pointed it out to me. But yes, there's a woman with red see-through pants right at the beginning of this scene.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows. You didn't notice either.
I didn't. I clearly didn't.
So we get through there. They cut her arm off. They drag her outside, and they try to find out who she's working for.
She says, it was a bounty hunter called, and then she gets hit in the neck with a poison dart and dies. And it's such a missed opportunity to reprise or reference the joke from Blazing Saddles, where a man is hit on the head with a shovel in the middle of transcribing a telegram, leading to the immortal line, telegram the main office and tell them I said, ow. Why couldn't it have been a bounty hunter named Ah?
So another question is, why didn't they take off and go chase Jango at that point?
Yeah, that doesn't make. I guess they were tired. They were calling it a night. We have already chased a shapeshifter. Done.
I guess because they
Jedi
really hard
fulfilled. And we've got his dart. We just need to go talk to a 4-armed diner guy, and we'll be able to find him.
I guess so. I mean, he's a lot closer to them than Zam was ever.
Yeah.
But okay. Well, we have to stretch. We have to stretch the movie. I understand.
Our disbelief needs to be.
Just hold on to it a little bit longer.
The pulley and get it.
Oh, so I've got things out of order. I'm sorry. So I did write about the chase that Anakin, to me, the way Anakin drives, he's like that douchebag you knew who drove like a maniac when you were in the car because you knew it scared you.
I agree. I mean, I feel like everything that Anakin does in this movie is just douchebaggery.
I think he's turning into a douchebag, guys. I think we got to watch out for this kid.
Yeah.
And then also the bar was a sports bar. So you could tell.
Yes.
From all the shit on the screen.
Yeah, they make all of their hamburgers totally well done and they don't care.
Yep.
I like this stuff a lot. I would like to see a really interesting, compelling Star Wars story told on the streets of Coruscant.
Yeah, I'd be for that. Like, you know, like a noir mystery. I'd fine.
Isn't it interesting how the planets in Star Wars, it seems like every planet just has one kind of landscape. Like the entire planet is a city. The entire planet is a desert. And the Camino, it's like the entire planet is raining over the ocean. And, you know, Endor is a forest moon. Like, I mean, the only...
Endor has deserts, though.
Oh, does it really?
Endor has a lot of... Endor. The moon of Endor has a bunch of different kinds. It's not quite as many as Earth, but something like that.
Oh, that's good to know. Because real planets,
yeah,
at least the one that I know the most about, Earth, has all of
me too.
I think the other planets don't, though. If you look at the other 7 or 8 in our solar system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're pretty consistent planet-wide. We're the exception.
Yeah. So get off your high horse, No Diamond. Stop trying to explain how planets work when you don't even know.
It's hard to argue.
All right, so I have now that we go back to the council, but I don't know what happens there.
Oh, there's a little conversation with Anakin and Obi-Wan. They talk to the council about their failure, that they report on the bounty hunter thing that just happened.
Right. Well, and then weirdly, the council very specifically just does exactly what Palpatine wants.
Yes, every time.
I mean, it's weird because Yoda's suspicious of him, but still, they're like, okay, well then, Anakin, you go alone with Padme in a ship full of refugees, or you have to huddle together.
I have that written down. She's a politician, do not be trusted, but they do whatever Palpatine says. I mean, I said basically exactly what you just said. They do everything he says. But
yeah.
And there's even that little in-between scene here with Anakin and Palpatine, where Palpatine flatters him and tells him he could be the most powerful of all the Jedi. And
you sound like George Harrison when you do Palpatine. It's hilarious.
Well, I mean, I think we're seeing the total opposite of their relationship. You know, Anakin and Palpatine versus Anakin and Kenobi. Like, Kenobi is very critical and stop doing that, and Palpatine is like, you're great, you've got the biggest penis on Coruscant, nothing could possibly go wrong.
Yes, he's very manipulative.
A penis bigger than Master Yoda's. Okay, so then so this all happens, but then Obi-Wan's talking to the council, and he's trying to convince them that Anakin's dangerous and he needs to stop. So this is a total flip-flop.
Everything's
I'm going to train this boy. This boy is mind trained to, holy shit, you guys were right. Can we take this all back now?
Yeah, you're so right. And Mace Windu is now the one saying, well, if the prophecy is true, then this guy's going to bring balance to the Force and everything. Yeah, it's true. I just want to mention the little floating platform that Yoda is on in that scene, in order to maintain eye contact with the, less vertically challenged characters. I really like that.
Yeah, it's
I really want one of those. Yeah.
Do you think you could go down the streets in New York and people would be like, excuse me?
Well, depending on the neighborhood, I'm not so far off from eye level, but
I'm pretty low below the ground. Yeah, it's always a seat on the subway. You
would just float in the middle?
Yeah. And I'd be like, it's showtime! And then I take my thing and spin around.
You're like a little pole dance with your floating. You're really good at doing it, almost like skateboarding and parkour, except floating.
Yes, and I parkour off of my platform by going, yeah, we got to find me one of these. I know exactly the way to make a ton of money in New York City now.
Go for it. Live your dreams.
Floating platform parkour on the subway.
Hello.
Finally.
Okay, so hey, Mr. C. Everyone who doesn't know, that's Marc-Anthony's cat.
Yes, it is.
Cooper.
Although today, lately he's been Mr. C. Lately, he's been bitey and clawy, so it's Mr. C time. He hasn't been Agent Cooper for a week or so.
Wow, he needs to get his shit together because we all know what happens eventually. Because you're gonna have a guy show up at your house in a gardening glove. All right, so the next one is at Padme's. Okay, she's the leader of the opposition to this bill.
Yes.
How did someone from such a small, tiny planet, they keep talking about this tiny planet of Naboo, how did she become so important at such a young age to be like the, I don't
Because
know.
she solved a crisis on her planet and like theoretically probably became like a household name for people that were aspiring to do similar things.
She has the wisdom.
She made the talk show circuit.
She was on The View.
There were many, many memes. The Padme memes were just great, and you know her message got through. People dig Padme.
They were like, it was like, hey girl, you know, all those.
Yeah, she gave up queenhood to be a senator.
And now she appoints Jar Jar Binks as her proxy.
Yeah, it's not one of her better moves.
So that's why, yeah, but it doesn't bother her to let him, you finish the sentence that I had started. As leader of the opposition, the idea of blah, 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 but it doesn't bother her that Jar Jar is going to be her rep. Is it because she thinks that nothing's going to happen except the vote and he's going to know yay or nay? I mean, but also the Jedi are in the room when he is manipulated into calling for the senator to be, or for Palpatine to be Supreme Chancellor.
They are? The Jedi are in the room?
Yes, there are two Jedi in the room when it happens. I didn't write down who.
You mean when Jar Jar actually makes the proposes the vote?
It's Mace and Yoda that when she says, "If only there," but he says when before says if only there was someone, if only Senator Amidala were here. They're there when Jar Jar makes. He kind of looks all whatever. I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, at that particular moment, the Jedi, I'll guess, are not too happy about Palpatine becoming Supreme Chancellor and having these emergency powers, but they do sort of reluctantly support the building of an army for the Republic, which is ostensibly the reason Palpatine makes this ascension.
And I guess they just have to stay out of that kind of politics anyway. You know, they wouldn't speak up in a political atmosphere, I guess.
They've become complacent.
They have. They're very egotistical. They're very sure of their place. Of their place, which is not sure at all, as we see.
Well, and they seem to be more theoretical than anything. They sit around in their tower and they talk about stuff and send people on little missions here and there, but they don't really get involved in day-to-day life enough to know how it works.
They don't know how much a gallon of milk costs. Not at all.
They didn't even know there was slavery like 2 blocks over, you know? They're like, what?
Exactly. Annie bitching about Obi-Wan.
He doesn't understand. It's not fair.
Doesn't something at me? Oh, don't look at me like that. Why? Because it makes me...
I had fun this time imagining Gordon Cole saying all of his lines.
Say it again. Say it again. What did he say?
I had fun this time. Every time Anakin said a line, I would just imagine Gordon Cole saying it. I don't like sand. It's rough and gritty and gets in everything.
So this time so Noah, what did he just say? What is he bitching about now?
He takes the opportunity. He and Padme are having a private conversation. They've reached Naboo, and he's just talking about his life. And yeah, he's doing his venting frustration at Obi-Wan.
She's getting ready. They're getting ready to go. She's packing.
Oh, okay. And he says, yeah, you know, he's in many ways I'm ahead of him, you know, and he's holding me back. He doesn't understand. It's not fair. You know, it's one of those, as is often the case here, it's hard to blame the performer, you know, for just the kind of leadenness of what he's asked to say. And there probably is a way to pull a good performance out of these specific performers doing this specific material. But in many cases, it just seems like they've been asked to demonstrate emotions that aren't really earned by anything they say or anything that's happening in the story. It's just like we need Anakin, as you were pointing out, Marc-Anthony, we need him at this point to resent the Jedi a little bit and to feel sympathetic toward Palpatine.
Right. So
I think his little little bitch sessions are precious and hilarious, and I love them.
It's to show how
it's worse.
It's worse. He has that weird accent. It's worse. It's weird. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and then like the way he like turns his head all the time, brooding, like it cracks my ass up, and I love it.
He looks up like this. And he goes, yeah.
And he's always like looking, down from like
yes.
Predator. Like,
he goes, yes, that's exactly what happened.
I love it.
It's a good angle, you know.
It has a certain like camp appeal to it, and that was true of. It's always been true of Star Wars, including the original trilogy.
Yes.
However, you can have that. You can have that kind of adorable, sort of so bad it's good, campy quality, and also put us inside the psyche of characters who we are genuinely interested in and compelled by, not because of who they are in the giant narrative, but because of the specific evidence in front of us. And that's why sometimes in criticizing the prequels, I think it's a mistake to dwell too much on the sentence by sentence writing of them, the dialogue itself, which does have its problems, but it's not just about the words, because we learned more about who Luke Skywalker was, and we came to care more about him in the completely wordless sequence of him just watching the twin sons of Tatooine set. That is like an indelible cinematic moment that on first viewing immediately tells you so much about what's going on inside that guy. And we learn more about Luke in that very brief sequence than we ever learn about Anakin and his internal life.
Except for perhaps the shadow moment when he turns to look at the thing, and his shadow becomes Darth Vader. And this is right before he goes to kill all the sand people.
Mm-hmm.
We can talk about that. Okay, so let's skip to some more bigger plot points, because I'm miring us down, but jump in wherever. So they get ready. Huh?
No, go ahead.
What?
Oh, I was just gonna. I mean, the next big thing is Obi-Wan and Dex at the diner.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So they go see Dex. The diner looks great. Dex is a great
You want some
character.
Jawa
He's one of my
juice?
favorite characters.
I love Dexter.
He just seems wonderful and disgusting.
I like that.
I like that diner too. And they find out that the dart is from Kamino.
Yes.
And then Obi-Wan tries to find Kamino and cannot. And then the librarian shows that her arrogance is also clouding the future. Because
Indeed.
they're so set in their ways. The Jedi are so sure they're right about everything that it's going to tear them apart. So she says, hey, there's nothing in here. And then before we go back to that, we take a break, and we see Anakin and Padme travel as refugees, even though anybody looking at them compared to anybody else on this trailer recognizes that they are not refugees. She's got this big gold thing on her head. And it's just like, she's not even trying. She's not even trying. Like, she tried to fit in while she was on Naboo, or she was on Tatooine, but no, I will travel like a refugee, but damn it, I'm wearing my clothes. I don't know. That's what she went through. Then they travel, and he talks about unconditional love and how I can have unconditional love, and they get all flirty McFlirterson. And then we go back to the temple where Obi-Wan says, Yoda, got a problem. I don't know where this planet is.
Yes. And then a child solves it
By saying,
Maybe someone removed it.
And was that a real child, or was that a CGI child?
Someone deleted it from the archives.
That sequence is, it doesn't hold up to much narrative scrutiny, but it's visually beautiful. The lights coming down and that sort of 3D map of the galaxy, really beautiful. Also a little reference to those floating those spheres that the younglings are using to train, as Luke did aboard the Falcon in Episode 4. And
you have to see the younglings, because it's like seeing.
You have to set that up.
Yeah, it's seeing the gun you're going to use later. You're supposed to, I assume, get very emotionally connected with them and how cute they are, so that it's worse. But
yeah, it's another thing. Like, It's a missed opportunity. Could have been such a lovely little scene with Yoda and children. I mean, it should be a beautiful scene. It's just kind
awkward and
yeah, it's beautiful to look at, but it could be more.
So a child shows them the way, and Obi-Wan says, well, I got to go to this Camino place then. But first, back to Naboo. We'll go to Lake Country.
One of my favorite lines. I think it would be wise if you took advantage of my knowledge in this instance.
This is something he likes to say a lot. So they're going to go to the Lake Country, where she doesn't have to dress at all, where she can just wear, like flimsy little things, which will help.
And where the giant fat tick beetle cows roam free.
Oh my God. I mean, can we talk about evolution a little bit here and how it's not working? How like in this planet, evolution is like a joke. And they're like, haha, we're going to make the legs shorter in 100 years. Watch this.
Well, it was probably selective breeding of the same people that democratically elect a 14-year-old to be the queen of their planet.
Right.
Like they're quirky, I'm sure.
They're quirky. So they have these these things with the butts. So they go up to Lake Country. They do have a little bit of an argument. You see his temper flare again. But he backs down pretty quickly from her. And then
I don't like sand line is in there somewhere.
Is that there?
No, that's when they're talking on the.
We get back to them after. Yeah, there's a little Camino.
We have to go to Camino.
Right.
So I'll let you guys talk, but the first thing I want to say is Camino, I think, is one of my favorite planets in the entire universe. I think I would live there half the year and love it. Just the rain, the ocean, I love it.
I'm totally with you. I love everything about Camino. I love like how tempestuously beautiful it is. I love how it is this like raging storm and then this perfectly safe, sanitized world inside that is just like very calming and serene. I love the design of the Kaminoans. Like, it's like, yes, you can be as evil as you want. I don't care what you're ruining. Just keep talking like that and moving. Like, it's really, it's calming.
What does this say about us? Because that's exactly how I feel about it.
I think that it just means that, we want a bunch of militaristic clones to just take care of the stuff that we don't want to take care of.
Here's my bills. Here's my taxes. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll do it for you.
I think that said, looks like an Apple store.
Yes, I wouldn't disagree with that. There is, in the Clone Wars TV show, there is an old evil Kaminoan woman that is just kind of like a, not quite dead Katharine Hepburn that wants to murder everyone. And it's fantastic.
Oh my God. I hope nobody ever calls me anything like that.
Does she talk like Katharine Hepburn?
Yes, somewhat. I mean,
really?
not specifically like Katharine Hepburn, but I mean, it's just a kind of like.
Growth acceleration is very important to what we do.
They're not far off from the actual character.
Well.
Oh my God. Whew. All right, so they're in Camino with Katharine Hepburn, and they tell the backstory. Somebody explain what we have to go there to hear what. I'm going to open my window.
Okay, so I mean, basically, the Jedi Master Sifo Dyas, we presume under the orders of Darth Tyrannus / Dooku, has commissioned a clone army from the Kaminoans to be for the Republic. Ostensibly for the Republic.
Obi-Wan tells us that Sifo Dyas was killed almost 10 years ago.
So I think, what I assumed, at least, the first time I saw it, was that Sifo Dyas was killed, his name was used, and then he was killed, so he couldn't say, no, I never did that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, however, that supplementary material has given a story more like Sifo Dyas was part of it, and somehow got killed in the process. I don't know the whole story, sadly.
But it could easily be that even if he was part of it or not part of it, it could easily be that Palpatine killed him or had him killed, because he's certainly not, loyal.
Right.
Not like he's not shy about killing people who do shit for him.
Right.
Or it could have been him. I can't imagine he would actually go and do the cloning, ask for the cloning though as Sifo-Dyas, because he, like you said, it's the mob. He's got to stay out of it. It can't trace anything back to him. Though.
No, but Sifo-Dyas was a different Jedi. This isn't Palpatine.
Right, but I'm wondering if he took his name, and then that's why he died. Like he killed him. I don't know.
Oh, maybe.
But how did he know? He had to get. Someone had to get. I mean, was it his plan to have a Jedi go find this clone army, or?
No, I don't think he was planning on using it yet. I don't think he was planning on having that battle yet.
In the secret history, not the secret history, how Star Wars conquered the universe, Chris Taylor suggests that it's a misdirect, that Sifo-Dyas is supposed to make you think it's Sidious.
Yeah.
Sifo-Dyas and Sidious sound something alike.
So we don't know, really. We don't know.
But I do think that with a little bit of digging, we could know that connection for sure. But I don't think. I think Palpatine was just trying to get the power first, and then he was going to decide how to use the army. And this situation arose.
All right.
Once it was exposed, he had to make his move.
He had to shuffle a little. Yeah. Okay. But they were programmed with Order 66, it seems, from the beginning. So it seems like he did know they were going to be fighting alongside the Jedi at some point. So
yeah. I just don't know if he expected it to start right then.
Movie. But yeah.
Right.
No, true. Okay. So what else? So we see the clones. We see that there are 200,000 units and 1 million more being made. They all look like Jango Fett.
Yes, and I really love those, clearly animated but still really beautiful scenes of all of these, marching stormtroopers. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly, I think, up to this point, the most stormtroopers we've ever seen in one place, and having not seen stormtroopers do anything for so long, it was pretty satisfying the first time I saw it, and I still enjoy it.
Onto that balcony, and they all start lining up, and the Imperial March plays. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And if you watch the movies in episodic narrative order, as we are for this series, this is the first time in the saga you see any of what will eventually become known as stormtroopers, right? And their uniforms kind of look like a combination of the classic stormtrooper look and the Mandalorian Jango Fett, Boba Fett armor.
Yeah.
It's really fun and satisfying. And also, I didn't recognize that most of them, of course, in those scenes, I think it's pretty clear that they're CGI, but they're pretty much, most of the troopers in the whole film are CGI. There aren't any, maybe a guy in costume here and there, but most of them are.
Yeah, and like the battle droids, these are characters who might as well be CGI. I mean,
yes.
You're not missing any aspect of humanity or performance.
So so we see the clones. We chat a little bit with Jango, meet his son Boba.
Yes.
I love this scene. I really dig the interplay between these two actors in this bit.
There's a lot simmering under the surface of it. There's tension in this scene. Yeah, you're right. Two actors in a scene together with real tension. And you
can tell they were really this is our one shot. Let's make something happen.
Oh my God, actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obi-Wan is glaring right into his eyes and saying things like, you must be very impressed or very pleased with your army, and there's a lot of subtext in this scene, which is very welcome. There's also, it's interesting, Jango says he's never heard of Sifo-Dyas. He was recruited by a man called Tyrannus. That's Darth Tyrannus, also known as Count Dooku, right?
Yes. Yep.
Here's a question. Does Count Dooku know the whole plan? Does he know about Order 66?
No.
I doubt it.
No.
I think Dooku is a pawn right now, because Sidious just wants to raise Anakin to be his apprentice. He's using Dooku to get the war set up.
I mean, he's done that to he gives everybody this much information and then kills them.
But Dooku does know that a clone army is being built for ostensibly for the Republic.
I guess so. No, I mean, I guess he does know because he's in charge of the whole section of the thing. He knows up to a certain point, yes. I guess maybe more than I just said he would, but
yeah,
he does know something. He knows he's part of the plan.
But he doesn't know what's going to happen to him later.
Right. He thinks that, he's going to be the leader of this thing and he's going to rise up with the Emperor, and that's clearly not what happens.
All of that is intercut with romantic scenes of life on Naboo.
And I have here written, Hans and Portman are like two seals kissing, except there's no chemistry there.
More.
Yes, the music stops.
I can't breathe.
And she's like, "No, Anakin, stop. We have no chemistry."
Yes. And then we have this whole thing with those horribly evolved, short-legged, big-butted things.
Mm-hmm.
And then these two, they're like rolling around on the ground, except there's no hill. They're like pushing. You can see them struggling to push themselves. It's just like everything else in their relationship. It's just this struggle to like, oh my God, it's awful. All right. But then we go back to Camino and we
May
see
the force be with you.
We see that water bird come out of the sea.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, is that Django?
I think it's a Caminoan.
Yeah, it's a Caminoan.
Okay.
Is it always raining on Camino, or is this just a rainy day?
I think it's always raining.
No, I'm going to say that they have beautiful sunny days where everybody gets up and surfs.
And they're all like,
this just happened to be a dark and stormy Caminoan day.
I don't think those guys can surf. I think their center of gravity is way too high.
Little do you know, they can squat down into these little statues that are, and they have suction cups in the bottom of their feet. They can hang 6. How many toes do they have?
Wow, I had no idea. I don't know what this means, and I wish I did, because I had written something I can't read, and I wrote, that's what he said. I have no idea what it was. So there's somewhere around there's a little joke where you can say something, but that's what he said. So
that's what he said.
You find it, mail it in with a proof of purchase, and you'll get a prize.
Well, among the things he said are, "I'm in agony, I can't breathe, and you are in my very soul, tormenting me."
Well, we're not there yet. We're still on Camino.
Oh, are we? Oh,
well, it goes back and forth.
It goes back and forth. So yeah, you go to the pear dinner after this
part. Oh, okay, yeah.
Where she's having a pear for dinner, and they give her a knife and a fork to carve her pear.
Yeah, which is just, giving someone an unnecessary obligation, if nothing else. That is not good hosting at all.
And I mean, I understand that this is a galaxy far, far away, but we know what a pear is, and we know you don't eat one for dinner. With a knife and fork.
You're a refugee wearing a $3 million dress. Here, hiding on Naboo, you're changing into another fabulous outfit like every 5 minutes. Oh, we're done rolling around in the grass. We're going to go sit in front of the fire. Let me change into at least an hour's worth of
Let me get my pear-eating gown.
Yeah. Well, you hungry? Here's a pear, a fork, and a knife. Deal with it.
But it's okay. She has a Jedi there who will cut it and send it over to her through the air.
Oh,
I mean, see, this is just one more situation where I feel like it is a blatant, heavy-handed, like, he is a bad kind of guy, like the guy that's like, let me cut your meat for you, honey, like.
And one of the creepiest things he says is here when he goes, Master Obi-Wan would be very grumpy if he knew I was doing this, and you're like, oh my God,
ew,
really? That's so embarrassing.
Yeah,
my young Padawan, do not use the Force for food preparation.
All right, George. So yes, she gets dressed for their little fireside chat.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We live in the real world. Come back to it.
But you know what? That bodice or whatever it was does not live in the real world.
No, it's like shh. My soul speaks.
It's like Elvira goes to prom.
It is, and it just cuts all of her outfits cut off right in the middle of her boobs.
It was strange.
It's made by a man. These men do not understand these things that we have that they costumed her with because they don't cut in half.
I believe costume designer Trisha Bigger was responsible for these.
Well, Trisha, you don't know how your boobs work, or you hate other
I've met
women.
a few men named Trisha.
So that my soul speech. She gives my soul. If you're suffering as much as I am, please put me out of my misery. I'm dying.
And nobody
Or
wants to hear this.
Anderson.
You don't want someone to tell you that you're tormenting them in their soul, and it's not a good approach. A lighter touch, Anakin.
I think what we need to accept, though, I mean, let's take the narrative at face value. It did work.
It did, but does he have to stay a Jedi? I mean, if this is as important to him as he makes it out to be, why doesn't he just stop being a fucking Jedi?
Yeah, I don't know.
But because what they say is we can't live like this; it'll kill us, and then they didn't make that decision anyway because they almost got killed by.
Yeah, they think they're gonna die when.
Yeah, but then they come back and they're still alive, and they get married.
It's true.
After everything settles down, they decide, oh wow, that thing we talked about.
This film is just a series of bad decisions, badly acted.
I wrote, he's bad enough. That Hayden Christian Anderson, don't give him those shit lines as well.
Now I feel a little bad.
About Hans Christian Andersen?
He was the greatest of Danish folklore.
So, talk. I don't know.
The
Talking
next,
to Ewan again?
Yeah, Obi-Wan holograms the council from Camino.
Right.
He has to stand in the rain yelling on this hologram.
Yes.
And the council, again, flatly denies that they ordered any creation of a clone army, which is actually true because they don't know about it.
But they seem to be more worried that they, just worried that they couldn't predict this or didn't know what was happening. They're less worried about what the implications of this army are.
They're becoming self-aware that they're not self-aware at this point. That things have been so good. They've been trucking along and...
We are out of touch, Yoda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're out of time.
This army we did not see.
This army we did not see. Blind we are. Then Hans has a little nightmare that seems like he's having sex, but it's really a nightmare. About his mom.
Yeah. Right.
Talk about
it was a weirdly sexy mob nightmare.
He's shirtless.
Yeah, it just...
Do you want to put on your Freud glasses again?
No. I mean, it's kind of similar to in Catholic Church, and you're like, God, Christ's abs are just great.
Yeah.
That's, it's a similar kind of discomfort.
So he has these nightmares. They're not getting better.
No.
He finds her presence soothing, but he's got to get to fucking tattooing. Same as mom. How do we feel about that?
Well, I mean, I guess at least in this situation, maybe he is, now I'm giving up the Jedi Order. I'm directly disobeying this rule to protect this person. I'm going to shirk my duties. Screw it.
Yeah, I think it's surprising that in the last 10 years he hasn't checked in on his mother at all. Yeah, sure, I have no problem with that as a plot device. He should have done that already. His mother's been this whole time, 10 years, and I know he's been busy with his training and everything, but he can pick up a phone, call, right?
I know you've been busy with your training.
Oh, my son, he's wonderful. He's a Jedi. He's in court. He doesn't call. He's busy. I know he's very
He could use the Force, but I just...
Mr. Jedi, too busy to pick up a phone and call his mother.
Too busy to telepath with his mother. All right, Tatooine. All right. So next we head to so Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah, there's a big fight with Jango.
Yes.
Anybody want to take that?
Well, I mean, this to me is where this movie kind of masturbates for the fans quite a lot, and I'm not complaining too much, but it is we really wanted to see Mandalorian in action, and this has that.
It's good.
And it has the Slave One, firing at Jedi. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
a 13-year-old level, I love it.
It's a good little action sequence, and it's not over blown as a lot of the action sequences are in this movie. And as is often the case in not only this movie, but also in Empire Strikes Back and Last Jedi and all the second, installments in each prequel, there's a lot of unresolved stuff, a lot of fights to a draw.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but he's going to, so he's flying though. He throws a tracking device up on Boba's or Jango's ship. They fly through the asteroid field. I have to say, seismic charges are some of my favorite weapons in Star Wars.
I love the sound they make. Like I love the delay before it's so much fun.
I love it.
It's totally fun.
Blast
and
the rock.
also, I think we're supposed to assume that Boba Fett learned this, little trick of hiding and tracking and stuff from this escapade. Also, Jango Fett bonks his head on the door of the Slave One as he's entering the ship, which is a nod to stormtroopers bonking their heads on doors. Yeah.
And the whole presence of an asteroid belt is another Empire reference.
Right. Yeah.
And hiding on the side of an asteroid, but he didn't go in. But
right, but still.
Boba's creepy.
Boba is totally creepy. I hadn't really thought until this time around how, what exactly would his life have been like up to this point? He's, like 9 or 10 or whatever.
And his companions would be, as Noah said, people who look just like him, but they're dumber.
Yeah. Who does this kid have to play with? Like thousands of kids who look just like him and are programmed not to think.
Yes.
That
must be really, really awkward, Boba. Sorry. And then, also these... tall, wiry, ethereal alien angels.
Yeah.
And then his,
I don't want to play
probably
with
not very
mentally stupid me.
Like, I think he's got some issues, Boba.
And then he gets on the ship and he's like, I don't remember what Jango says. Something like, he won't be bothering us much anymore. And Boba's like, yeah. I mean, it's creepy as shit.
That's an evil kid.
Yeah.
There's one evil kid.
He's like, that's right, Dad. He's got this 60-year-old man's voice. It's terrible. So I like seismic charges. Anybody else have a favorite weapon, favorite thing that they've used before?
In this movie, or any movie? Any. I gotta agree with you. The seismic charges are pretty great. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Seismic charges.
Yeah, it's too easy to say lightsabers.
It's true.
I do. I really just love Star Wars sound design in general. Ben Burtt does a great, loving job with it.
Yes, it's good. That is good. And with the delay and the stuff, it's just...
The delay is what really makes it. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And then they jettison he jettisons his spare parts canisters which is also a nod to
Empire, where they float away with the rest of the garbage.
Yes, exactly. Okay, blah blah blah. So then, so anything else about that chase? And
no, I just love it. It's fun. I dig asteroids. I'm sure a couple of them were potatoes and the rest were created in a computer.
At least one was a potato.
There's apparently a shoe in The Empire Strikes Back somewhere. I've never found it. But...
And then we're at Tatooine.
Yeah, it's always nice to be back on Tatooine.
Where, again, Padme does a very good job blending in with the locals.
Yes.
We get to see Watto again. Watto has aged a little bit, unlike Padme. And he says that he sold Shmi to a moisture farmer named Lars. We know all about that because we've seen the original movies. And he mentions Mos Eisley, too. She's somewhere over on the other side of Mos Eisley.
He thinks. They're going to check his record. But yeah, I really dug this scene. Watto is kind of exactly who you could expect him to end up being at that point. He was a fun character from Phantom Menace. It was nice seeing him be more washed up and desperate.
He wears a hat now.
And I think you also started to get an inkling there, and in a sense that actually really worked, that Anakin was kind of a threatening person now. You really could see him harming Watto for all that he'd visited upon him his whole life. And so you started to be a bit more afraid of Anakin at this point.
Yeah, he's you're a Jedi now. What do you know?
You sure sprouted.
So he goes, then they go to, so he sends him to Lars' house. To the Lars residence.
Chez Lars, as it's called.
Chez Lars.
Where the blue milk flows freely.
And Baru is always pouring drinks for people.
Right. And, I have to say, Owen and Baru, based on this movie, man, desert living is real hard, I guess, because they age not too well in the 20 years, I don't know, 22, 23 years that they look pretty young and cute.
Yeah.
She's got a chip missing if later she's able to go, he's got too much of his father in him. It's scary. It's scary as shit, lady. I mean, we don't laugh about that shit.
But there is some very nice fan service here, especially on first viewing when episode 2 was new. It was really exciting to see this, what we think of as the Skywalker homestead from episode 4. And we're right in that same exact kitchen where Aunt Beru poured the blue milk, and then the dining room table where Luke had his, I want to submit my application to the Academy this year. And the guy, I should have looked up his name before we did this, but the guy who plays Klieg Lars is a very good match for the Uncle Owen we met in episode 4.
Yeah, no, it worked. We're also in the garage too, aren't we? In the garage, we eventually see Luke in.
That's right, where 3PO will have his oil bath. That's where.
And I think John Williams did a great job with the score here. I mean, I remember the first time that I saw it, and you could start to feel all of this coming in. The music there really adds a lot to the excitement of what's happening.
It's beautiful, especially when Anakin is outside brooding right before he goes to look for Shmi. And we hear the same romantic theme we heard when Luke was standing here. And then when it cuts to Anakin on his speeder, we go right to the Duel of the Fates theme. Yeah, it's the music, as like the sound design, as you pointed out, is one of the things that's always good. No matter what level of Star Wars we're experiencing, the music and the sound is always just perfect.
Yes, agreed. And I feel like you can really see that Anakin's anger in this scene is justified. Like to a certain extent, like these people just left my mom to die. I'm angry. It works for me.
I'm the only one who could have saved her, and I wasn't here. I think too, that's another element of that.
Now Anakin's moodiness is about something, and it's much more compelling. It's much more convincing.
So he has to find my mother.
To find my mother.
And I've written underneath it, and get some Claritin. To find my mother. Which he does. He finds her.
He does?
No, I'm sorry. We go to the droid factory with Obi-Wan first.
Oh, right. Obi-Wan. No, he spies on Dooku, right, on Geonosis. Yeah, near the droid factory, I guess. And he sees that Dooku is plotting with Newt Gunray and the Trade Federation people.
And that they specifically want Padme dead.
Right.
Awesome. I dropped some. Okay.
Where did Amanda go?
She dropped
something. She dropped something awesome, apparently. I don't know what it was.
I didn't even need this. Okay, so we find out Newt Gunray, blah, 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 blah. You all talk about something because I've lost what I'm looking for. So then we go back to the saving of Shmi Skywalker.
Right.
Yes, I guess saving might be a little bit. The attempted saving.
Temporary rescue.
The momentary. I mean, and I think it's not entirely clear. Like, she'd been kidnapped for over a month or something, and she was tied to this kind of cross-like thing. And then, are we assuming that she just died because the shock of seeing her son just was the last thing she could deal with, or was she slowly bleeding to death? What?
Well, I think that clearly she'd been used as I think she'd been raped and kept alive barely enough so that she could serve their purpose, and they didn't care if she lived or died. And I think she would have died soon. And I think she gave up hope after she saw Annie because she didn't need to hold on anymore. And that's all she was holding on for.
Okay. Well, I love Pernilla August as Shmi Skywalker. I think she was
good. Very
Yeah.
good. No.
I think so too. I think she's. I think Pernilla August is great, and I think her performance in Episode 1 is one of the better performances in that movie. And it's a little bit. I mean, I could be disappointed that she doesn't really have more to do here, but this is pretty good. I mean, this isn't bad. I think this sequence. It's very disturbing. I mean, it's horrible the state that he finds her in, and he doesn't get what he wants, which is a happy reunion with her, and for her to be okay. But it's good, and as I said before, I think here we have like some of the gravity and drama that's indicated by the things people say and by the way the music sounds is earned here. This is actual pathos. It's good.
And he goes in and he kills them all. He slaughters them like animals because they are animals.
And not just the men, but the women.
I hate them.
And the children and the dogs. I hate them.
And all of them. He hates them. And that is when he becomes Vader in the little shadow against the wall as well. And he does all this. He comes back. He sits down with Natalie Portman. And he tells her, I killed them all. I killed the women. I killed the children. I killed them all. I hate them. And she says, well, anger's normal.
I mean, really, it is one of the more bizarre things in all of Star Wars that it's almost like this scene is like someone coming home from work and just talking about how they hate their boss.
Right.
And their partner being like, it's okay, it's fine to hate your boss. Everyone hates their boss. Don't worry about it.
This is the equivalent of someone
just,
saying, I hate my boss. He really pissed me off today, so I finally just chopped his head off and I killed the 5 coworkers who sit nearest him. And they go,
it's okay. To err is human.
It's normal.
Yeah. We have all decapitated a few coworkers.
I just killed an entire ethnic neighborhood. Women, children too, because I hate them. It's normal to be angry. That's how I put this together. An ethnic neighborhood.
When he says, I'm a Jedi, I know I'm better than this. That too, I feel, is a above par moment for this character and this movie. The line is written colloquially. The actor has no trouble saying it. It's exactly what he would say in that situation, and he delivers it very convincingly. And it's a moment, in this moment, you actually believe that there is this great conflict inside Anakin. He's torn between his instinctive anger and rage and desire for vengeance and catharsis, and this more noble, more stoic Jedi lifestyle that he has been taught and genuinely does want to fulfill. This is, I think, with the stripped Tatooine, the movie takes a big turn toward dramatic credibility.
Oh.
It's the part that I have the least least ability to find credibility in this scene. I mean, I agree with you to some extent with Anakin's position. Like, what he's going through, I do think lends a lot of credibility to the story, but Padme's response does not.
True. I can't argue with you.
I just can't buy it.
Yeah.
Especially with how prudish she is about.
Well, everything. I mean, the best thing I can come up with, and it's stupid, is that, she has she's one of those overachievers that has worked her entire life to be perfect, and so her weakness is really bad guys. Like, she likes jerks, and for some reason that does it for her.
You're right, Amanda, that she's so prudish and so narrow about certain things. Like, hey, don't look at me that way. Hey, don't feel that way about me. We shouldn't be doing this. But, you wiped out an entire neighborhood of people. Well, everyone has a bad day.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he takes Mama back. They bury her.
Yeah, that funeral is kind of interesting. It prefigures the funeral that we'll have for Vader later, and it's also R2-D2 and C-3PO enter together during it, and a very blatant kind of internal reference. 3PO says, it seems he's carrying a message from Obi-Wan Kenobi. Does that name mean anything to you?
Yes.
Okay, I'll buy it. It's indulgent, but I like it.
I just want to know, after this scene, it had been like a few hours after Anakin and Padme had left, and we're Owen and Beru like, they just steal our droid?
Wait, shit, where's the droid? Did you put a tracking thing? No, why would I? They're family. Anyway.
But yeah.
That's true. All right, so Obi-Wan sends this message. He's showered in bullets at the end of it.
Right.
Geonosis.
Carry the old folks home, and yeah.
Padme's like, we gotta go, and you gotta protect me, so let's go.
Right.
In the meantime, they manipulate Jar Jar into granting the Chancellor supreme powers.
Dello Feligates.
Dello Feligates. He's
Jimmy's,
the one who gets to, yes.
Which
Jimmy, kind of like that. This is a chance right here. Jimmy Smits had a chance to do something. He's obviously not comfortable with all this. He argues. He's a little bit of limp arguing with Palpatine, but there it goes. Jimmy Smits doesn't go running after Jar Jar and say, "Listen, Jar Jar," and Jar Jar would turn around and say, "What is it, Jimmy Smits?" And Jimmy Smits would say, "Maybe this is a bad idea. You're about to elevate to the supreme leadership position the most evil person in this whole world, and only I know."
But he didn't.
Only I know.
He went to Denny's instead.
He went and had some Jawa juice at Dex's, and
yeah.
So we're back on Geonosis, with Dooku and Obi-Wan.
yeah,
Played by Christopher Lee, a very good piece of casting.
I dig him as it's very, very Dracula. It works. And like at the same time as doing this, he was doing Lord of the Rings, that trilogy horror.
Huh.
Goodness, but he wasn't in the Twilight.
No, he wasn't.
He didn't play the vampire in the Twilights.
You're right, though. This was an easy role for him because it's another Count D.
Right.
Oh my god. So he's there, and he says, "Join me, and we can destroy the Sith." And
Yes, join me, Obi-Wan. Very classic Star Wars here. I'll never join you, Dooku. And
say it again.
I'll never join you, Dooku. But it's also interesting. It's another case of Jedi denial syndrome. Like Dooku says very specifically, the Republic is under the control of a Sith Lord named Darth Sidious. And Obi-Wan's like, no, surely not.
The Senate Republic is enthralled to the Sith. Darth Sidious has them all in his sway. No.
You're an idiot, Dooku. What?
I'll never follow you, Dooku.
Yeah. I'll never join you. And then Jar Jar has his moment. What do you think about this? It really does seem like after all the talk after episode 1, the people who hate Jar Jar Binks with a passion I can't fathom, they say Jar Jar ruined the whole Star Wars universe, and now Jar Jar does cast the vote that.
Yes, I don't know. I love that.
Is that George Lucas knew? I mean, he must have known what he was doing there.
I have no idea, if that was the original plan with Jar Jar, or if that point it was like, well, here's something we can do that will be meaningful in a way. But I mean, I do just like the general concept of this complete well-meaning fool that just kind of like happened to stumble his way into politics, ends up being, deceived into making horrible things happen. I mean, that's something we should be wary of.
Padme's the one who did the vote of no confidence, though. So I mean.
Yeah, that's true.
Chancellor Valorum, yeah, that's true.
Poor Mr. Valorum.
Yeah, he never had a chance.
He didn't. He really didn't.
And he was their strongest supporter.
And he has such a strong face.
He has a very chiseled face. Very
when
stony.
Jar Jar proposes emergency powers for Palpatine, we see a floating Senate pod with the butt mouth guys from the cantina.
Mm-hmm.
They are
Bids.
very happy about this. Palpatine.
They're bids.
Biths?
Yeah, BITH.
Those guys.
Is that a contraction for butt mouth?
Of course, yeah.
The Dark Lord of the Bith? Yeah, anyway, they're very pleased.
They're very happy.
So Windu goes to Geonosis and gets as many Jedi as he can to go with him. And Yoda goes to see this army.
Right.
Right.
Go to Geonosis. Oh, so and Padme and Anakin also go to Geonosis.
And are captured in a. I mean, there's a. My understanding is that this scene in the factory where they are, rolling around and all of that was added much later, like after I think they were brought back in to reshoot that, or not to reshoot that, but to shoot it in general. So it was added last minute, and I really wish it had not been.
They didn't think there wasn't enough action, or what?
I don't know. I mean, because there's plenty of action, and that I get really bored with that one. I'm just like, all right.
I wrote it does go on.
It goes quite on.
It does.
Now I do kind of like the R2 and 3PO in the droid factory stuff.
Nice C-3PO and R2 exchange. You and I are on the same page with this one. Am I?
I always like R2 and 3PO. They're my favorite gay couple. So, and machines making machines. Well, shut me down. How perverse! Like I love 3PO. I love prissy robots.
Except suddenly, as Noah pointed out, okay, R2 can fly, but this is the only time he does it, ever.
Oh, he does it lots of times in the Clone Wars.
Yes, but in 4, 5, and 6, he's just forgotten.
Well, I think he's much older then. He hasn't had a refuel of those jets, or they busted.
The first time R2 does that in the droid factory sequence, it is a little bit like, it's like, wait a minute, could you do that this whole time? It's like Harpo Mark. You'll forgive me. It's like Harpo in the Coconuts. He's in jail, and they all this hard machinations to try to get him out of jail. And then it turns out he can just remove the bar and step right out. It's like, could you do that this whole time? It's like we've all been rubbing sticks together. You had a lighter all this time?
Yes.
Yeah, well, he's got to keep some aces up his sleeve.
The droid factory sequence is almost completely extraneous, but it does have its nice little visual moments. It is definitely, as you said, Amanda Sisk, in our last episode, talking about episode 1, it is a classic, we shouldn't have to do this, Galaxy Quest.
Yes.
We shouldn't have to do this.
Yes. Who made this? We shouldn't have to do this. Yeah, these crazy movie assembly lines that are like, OSHA would have they would never sign off on these things.
Is the entire world an obstacle course?
Why would they make them so difficult and dangerous? But they go outside of their way to make them difficult and dangerous. We shouldn't have to do this, yes. And somebody said, if a human being had to do it, they'd be crushed in the first second and a half. I mean, no way can anyone do this. But I have written down here, we hail the arrival of Hans. Oh, Hans Christian Andersen. Never mind. Okay, that must have been a note to myself.
I'm Hans Christian Andersen. I've many a tale to tell. Though I'm only a cobbler, I feel I tell them rather well. I'm Hans Christian
Okay.
Andersen. Stop that.
Thank you. So they get captured, and then I have captured.
Wonderful Copenhagen, jolly old girl of a town.
Marc-Anthony, I got nothing here. You got to stop this.
I have no way to stop that. I can maybe divert it into doodly-doo. Like what?
Oh my god. So they're captured. Captured.
All right. So
captured.
Well, and I gotta say, I really love this kind of like, arena style Coliseum. Everyone's bloodthirsty and just wants to say horrible things happen. That's a lot of fun.
Me too. And
I love the creatures.
I looked it up, and they are called
Acklay,
Reek, and Nexu, and they're in this arena every time. So I had a question, which was, which of these monsters do you think you should be paired up with? Which would you be most likely to be able to kill? The Acklay, which is the crabby thing, which I hate the most. The Reek, which is the one they ride around, or the Nexu, which is the cat thing.
So for those of you watching at home, here's your visual of these.
That's your Acklay and your Reek, and your Nexu's up there. Yeah.
I mean, I think I'd pick the Acklay.
Would you?
It seems like the thing that I would be most likely to be able to avoid.
No, it scares me too much. I think I would pick the Nexu. He seems like kind of a baby.
It's fast and those teeth.
True, but when she hits it, he's like meh. That made me feel like okay, I could get this thing.
Okay.
What about you, Noah?
I agree with both of you. I think the Acklay, I don't know if it's the one I would choose to fight or think I had the best chances against, but I think that is a great monster. I mean, it's a very scary and vividly drawn movie monster.
Talk about sound design.
Really good sound design, yeah.
And I mean, I think there are a lot of nods to Ray Harryhausen in this scene. It's really, you know, even though it's not stop motion, I mean, I think it's kind of lovingly referencing his look to a certain extent of these big giant monsters doing their thing.
Yeah, this really feels like a Hollywood sequence, you know, the arena setting and these monsters and the way that our heroes are kind of tied to these stakes. It's a classic sort of, they could never get out of this. They are dead, you know, and we're going to watch them get out of an impossible jam.
Yeah, it's very 40s serial. And I mean, and that really, I feel like of all the Star Wars movies, this one is the most Flash Gordon of all of them. I mean, it is really very like popcorn flick, cliffhanger kind of thing.
I think this sequence would be even stronger if we hadn't just had to sit through the droid factory sequence. It's a little exhausting at this point. Like, oh, we got another huge action sequence, and it's not the last one either.
I really wish that future edits would just take the droid factory sequence out, or at least significantly shorten it.
Maybe replace
then you
it
have
with...
this, and then you have when all the other, you know, Jedi come in. So then it's another. It's like builds on that sequence. You just haven't had a break in so long, so that by the time, you know, he kills Jango, you think, oh, this must be over by now, but it's not. There's a whole bunch more left, you know, and it's like there's too much action all in one place to get through.
The prequels in general, and also I think the sequels, the current trilogy, which I'm enjoying a lot of episodes 7 and 8 so far, and also Rogue One and Solo, I think there's a tendency to put these characters in situations where they're always running for their lives. They're in mortal danger from the very beginning of the movie to the very end, and they're always running. And it keeps everything very action-packed, it keeps the pace going, and it's very exciting. But I miss the downtime. And, you know, in the original films, there was always some downtime where the characters were just talking. And that's kind of when you got to know the characters. And that downtime often plants the seeds of your reasons to be invested in what's happening to them during the action sequences. For me, if the droid factory scene had been replaced with a little downtime, that might have been nice. There is some in this movie, and there is some in episode 3. But, you know, as much as I like them, The Force Awakens and Rogue One and The Last Jedi are all, you know, the characters never get to sit down for 5 minutes.
It's true.
They don't get to have tea.
Yeah.
So when the Jedi do arrive, I mean, first of all, I mean, it looks great. All the droids attacking, circling in on them. It's fun. It's beautiful. I remember the first time seeing in the theater when all the Jedi show up and then there's a big line of Jedi charging. Everyone cheered in the theater. Like, it was something that Star Wars fans had wanted to see for a long time, was a bunch of Jedi fighting at once.
Yeah, all the lightsabers in one place. It's nice. We've gotten so used to the idea of just 1 or 2 Jedi at a time in action. And here they are fighting as this kind of, not an army, but a unit, a little force.
Right. There is a little, this adds a little more unclarity, cloudiness around the whole idea of them being peacekeepers and not fighters. Though, again, because...
Well, but they're like, you know...
Only, but these guys are not coming at them. And then, like, they're the generals, too. They're commanding the troops. So is this more like a UN peacekeeping kind of thing? Or...
That's probably the best comparison. Yeah, it's true. They are generals. General Kenobi. Yeah. Well, he doesn't say they're not fighters. He says they're not soldiers.
Okay, but they're acting as soldiers.
But I mean, it seems like so much of their Jedi training is military to a certain extent, or, you know, martial I mean, they have weapons as a central part of their lives. Like it's, but I guess the idea is that those are supposed to be more for, I could use this to hurt you, but I'm not going to because I'm just here to keep the
Protection, I guess.
peace.
And they're saying this is all in interest of protection, I assume.
Well,
Yeah.
if the whole notion of the Republic having an army is treated as this very new and unusual step, you know, all this time, this Republic, which consists of thousands and thousands of not planets but systems, you know, and yet it's been sufficient all this time just to have this small group of Jedi maintaining order, and maybe that's a testament to just how powerful and influential the Jedi power has been up to this time. But the whole idea of commanding an army on behalf of the Republic, whether it's led by the Jedi or anybody, is treated as this very new development that everyone's uneasy about.
Right, but I mean, my understanding is that the Republic as it is now had stood, or as it is at this point, had been around for 1,000 years, without any war, and without any, at least no large-scale war.
Because there was no Sith force trying to...
Theoretically, yeah. But prior to that, there were 1,000 generations of Jedi, at least, or of the Old Republic, where there might have been war. So it might be that the Jedi used to be warriors in wars for a long time, and then for 1,000 years there had been peace, basically.
Because the Sith had been...
The Sith were eliminated, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, that works. So what by the time we get to the era of episode 1 and 2, the Jedi are, like, their job has gotten pretty easy over the years.
Right, yeah. And this was, I mean, actually, this is kind of drawing from a lot of Japanese stuff when, the war ended and all the samurai were like, we don't know what to do with ourselves. Like, we've got these sword, this is my soul. I can't just put my soul away and not do anything with it. And so there were like very specific cultural things that arose to try to give samurai things to do so that they just wouldn't go around killing people because that's what they were used to.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, well, I guess that holds water. But in this scene, the Jedi they have these clone troopers to command, and
right, and Yoda is dove right in as kind of like, to the forward area, take me.
Yes, around the survivors, a perimeter create.
Yes.
The inverted syntax that is Yoda's trademark is perhaps not best. Maybe he's not well served in his role as a military commander. All the clone troopers are like waiting for him to get to the subject of the sentence, so they know what they're supposed to do. Some notable moments here are Mace Windu decapitating Jango Fett.
Yes.
And R2-D2 recapitating C-3PO.
It's a nice inversion, these two things happening, yeah.
I like how Jango Fett has such a quick and sort of innocuous death, much as Boba Fett will in Return of the Jedi. Just like, interesting character, everyone's interested in the Fetts, but Boba Fett just gets thrown into the Sarlacc and that's it.
And same thing with Phasma, who is basically, I would say, the Fett of the new series. She just kind of has a, not necessarily as unceremonious, but still she just gets thrown into a pit.
Just got back, but Jango's death is amazing. I mean, the way Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, it's a good death. It's a bang up job.
I dig it.
One of those moments where you're very happy that this particular actor is playing Mace Windu. It's a very Samuel L. Jackson moment for him. And it reminds me a little bit of how the moment in Raiders of the Lost Ark when that adversary does all this fancy sword play and Indiana Jones just blows him away.
Yeah.
Where did Jango's head go?
Yeah, I seem to remember slow-moing this, not this time, but before, and you kind of see it fall out as the helmet goes elsewhere.
So when Boba is holding the helmet later...
The head is not in there, it's just...
No, it's very light, and nothing's dripping out the bottom.
Yeah.
Well, Mandalorians have hollow heads. Their brains are actually in their chests.
And lightsabers do cauterize wounds.
So.
Right. R2-D2 puts 3PO's head back on, and this is all fine with me. I think, though, there's one line that's a step too far, which is when C-3PO says, "This is such a drag."
That's
Because
terrible.
he would never use that expression. It's just for the joke. But I like it when he says, "I feel quite beside myself." That's okay, because that is something 3PO would say. And it's also...
How do you know what 3PO would say?
He would not say this is such a drag, for the same reason he wouldn't call anybody a dude or say that something is totally lame. 3PO never say, "This flying is such a drag." It's just not. It's just going so far out of your way for the joke that the joke can't be funny. But it's still nice, and it's yet another rhyming moment from Empire Strikes Back, where 3PO was dismantled and R2 had to help get him back together, and with Chewbacca's assistance.
Indeed.
So they realize they're in trouble there. Okay, where are we now?
So
he just kills Jango. The Jedi are obviously going to win this. No, the clones come in.
The clones come in. Yeah. Yoda shows up with the clones, and
then we get really our first big. Well, I guess there was kind of a land battle in Episode 1, but this is really the first large-scale land battle sequence in the series.
Yeah, well, the Gungans and the battle droids in Episode 1, that was a pretty big
I guess
battle. But this one is definitely more... This is more like what we thought... Well, I was going to say it's what we thought the Clone Wars might be like. But, it is really kind of interesting. I think we all assumed from the references to the Clone Wars in the original trilogy that the clones were the adversaries in those wars. It's a little bit of a surprise reveal that, at least initially, the clones are on the good side.
Well, right. That's why, they screw with your heart, and then that's what makes Order 66 so heartbreaking.
Yeah, genuinely heartbreaking in Episode 3.
We're moving forward here, and what are the bugs? The bugs say we're going back to the catacombs. We're getting the hell out of here.
Oh, yes, we see the Death Star plans.
The Death Star plans.
And he says, "This is the Death Star plan. Take this. I'm going. We're going to be doomed. By whom, I don't know."
Dooku says, "We're going to take these plans. They'll be safe with my master." Okay, so since we've now seen Rogue One, we know that these Death Star plans are, were created by a guy named Galen Erso. But it's still 20 years before the events of, or more than 20 years before the events of Rogue One and Episode 4. So this Death Star took a very long time. This is a really long gestating plan, I guess, like everything in Palpatine's world.
Well, that's why they had to, that's why they had to send Vader, and he was like, "You're not on schedule."
We've been waiting decades for this.
They had to, they have to take over all this stuff first. They have to he has to move the Republic around and get that all shifted before then they can start building this thing.
It's going to take a lot of material to build.
So
not to mention the labor.
He gives him the whatchamadoodle, and then what? So what is this? What is Dooku? So
well, Dooku says these plans, I'll take them. They'll be safe with my master, which is, of course, Palpatine / Sidious. The Jedi must not find our designs for the ultimate weapon. So this is our first.
Well, how do we get them? Or how did we get them? The plans.
How do the rebels get them?
Yeah.
Well, that's Rogue One,
Right, but how did they get them? It was the pilot, but he never said how he got them. Bodhi.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah, well, I'm surely there's a comic book or something that explains it.
I'm sure there is.
Well, and there is going to be a Cassian series, TV series.
Yeah.
Oh. So we see Dooku and Kenobi on Geonosis then.
Yes.
Right.
Just when you thought the movie was over.
Yeah, and then you suddenly realize, oh, we haven't had our big lightsaber duel yet.
Right.
Yes. And nothing's been tied up, though that didn't stop them later. And we see Kenobi swirling in this thing, and I'll never join forces with you, Dooku.
Yeah, well, that was earlier. Now it's
sorry. Oh, it's the duel.
Yeah, they
Yes.
Obi-Wan and Anakin run in to confront Dooku.
And he chops.
And
fucking
Anakin runs
arm
ahead.
off.
I'm taking him now.
Yeah.
He
right.
chops his arm off.
Yeah.
Same.
He had another arm.
But he was
Dooku
still
is
mostly man at that point.
mostly man, yeah.
Mostly.
Mostly man still. And then Yoda comes in, and he and Dooku do their lightsaber battle.
I love Yoda bouncing around and screaming and fighting with his lightsaber. I love it.
I do too.
I did
mean,
too.
it's
The theater went
undeniably
nuts.
thrilling.
Everybody in the theater went crazy.
Yeah.
We loved
It was a delight, and it's a delight to watch it every single time.
I forget
Right.
how fast it is, and then it just starts happening, and I just start giggling because he's just so fast. He's jumping around, and he's like,
Well, like it's both funny and exciting at the same time. I mean, it really is like, oh my god, he's behind it.
yeah.
Like I love it.
I love
I love
imagining Frank Oz in a recording booth going, "Rah! Rah!" If you listen to that too, you can imagine that it's Fozzie Bear or Bert.
Yes,
Easily.
yeah. And surely someone could make an edit where it is Fozzie Bear
Yes, get on that.
or Miss
internet.
Piggy. Yeah, I really want to see Miss Piggy. Like,
Well, we
Animal
kind of
would
have
be
seen that.
crazy.
Miss Piggy is a combat Muppet.
Yes. So then we are outside, and Portman and company lose Dooku as well. And we say we can't let Dooku get away, but he gets away.
Yes.
away
And
on his solar ship.
I just want to note that in that confrontation between Yoda and Dooku, before Yoda lets loose with his lightsaber, I think this is the first appearance in the saga of hand lightning, force bolts coming out of a Sith Lord's hands.
Force bolts, yes.
Dooku
I
does
think it
that.
is, yeah.
I don't think there's any of that in Episode 1.
No.
So yeah, this is something that is very familiar from Episode 3 also, but really from Episode 6.
But that Yoda seems to know how to deal with much better than Luke ever does.
Yeah, Yoda can just catch that lightning and contain it.
Yeah, it seems that he's maybe even using that energy to fight back.
Much
power me up, you
have.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You were both Yoda at the same time, and I missed it. Both of you.
I powered me up, you have.
And I said, much to learn you still have.
I just love Yoda in this scene, and Christopher Lee does a great job of acting with nothing, probably.
He really does. Yeah, Christopher Lee is great. I mean it shows that this kind of acting opposite a CGI character can work.
If you're Chris Lee, yeah.
So we go back to the temple.
Yeah, Dooku tells Palpatine that the war has begun.
And then
Palpatine cackles.
Victory, you say? The shroud of the dark side has fallen. Begun the Clone War has.
And then we release. I mean, I think we had briefly seen maybe a Star Destroyer at the Battle of Geonosis, but we really see all of those destroyers there taking off for the first time.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of clone troopers and Palpatine looking evil and Jimmy Smits
pounding, the parapet.
Yes. Jimmy Smits like, damn it.
Dang it.
Something.
It's presided
Miss
over by
Galactic
senators
Peace
and
by
Jedi
that
orders.
much.
Stormtroopers begin the reign of terror. And then meanwhile, Padme and Anakin have a ridiculously stupid wedding. It doesn't explain any change in ideas, thought patterns, nothing. They're going to get married now.
There's also no
And they
officiant. There's no wedding party.
No, it's just
There was an officiant. Yep.
Two droids
Was
as
there?
the witness.
There was an officiant between them.
Oh, I don't remember that.
So they haven't.
Maybe you're watching the special edition where they've removed the.
They removed the officiant.
It's been
They don't
been replaced by
change, or if they're going to tell people about it, or how this is going to destroy their lives. They just decide to move forward.
It rhymes with the last shot of Empire Strikes Back with Luke and Leia and the two droids.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
What did you say before? They kiss like seals?
They kiss with as much chemistry as two seals. Like it's like seals with as much chemistry.
Yeah, that's very apt.
And then you know we go do 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 do, and we get ready for the next one. So okay, so let me ask you guys a question. If Hans Christian Andersen asked you for advice about what to do with Padme before, you know, they get married, what would you tell him?
What to do with her?
Yeah, advice on how to handle the Padme situation.
I don't really understand why exactly the Jedi can't love. I mean, I know the, you know, shunning attachment is very Buddhist, and that we're kind of taking that on as a Jedi quality, but it seems to me the boy's in love. Why shouldn't he be able to have a relationship and fulfill his duties? I don't think that's ever really explained. We're just told to accept it, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't completely feel the star-crossed lovers theme that's being served to us, because it don't really make it clear why this is such a problem. Sure, this is the attachment that will lead him to the dark side, but it's one of these story details that we're just told, and we just kind of have to accept it. But I don't ever really buy into that.
So you wouldn't be like, hey, stay away from that girl.
No, be happy, live and be well, have a nice marriage. You know, this is the kind of thing.
Kids.
Yeah, have a couple of kids.
I mean, but does this presume that we know what's going on in the rest of his life too?
I mean, it presumes that he's a friend, and you see him, and you realize he wants to be a Jedi, but he's got this Amidala thing going on.
Yeah, but I mean, he also has like a really inappropriate relationship with the head of the government, who's probably very evil. I mean, being, you know, just seeing him smile, you know that he's got a crypt in his closet.
Yeah, so maybe if Anakin wasn't made to feel like a criminal just for having a crush on this, you know, very available and very attractive good friend of his, you know, then maybe he could be more open with the Jedi. Maybe he would be more open with her, and she certainly is capable of, since she's one of the few characters who seems to be onto Palpatine a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. It would also be
pro-love. We're in a camp here that's pro-love.
Pro-love, yes. Also, I mean, Star Wars has always kind of, in the original trilogy, we spend one movie wondering which of the two men Leia might wind up with, and then we spend another movie feeling that it's pretty clear which one she's choosing, and then we spend the third movie saying, boy, she made the right choice, because the other one turned out to be her brother.
Yeah.
You know, there's this romantic tension.
Dodge that bullet.
But it's never really been sexy. I mean, Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford had great chemistry, and some of their scenes together, especially in Empire, are wonderful for their like romantic tension. But you know, romance has always been, the romance of Star Wars has always been more in like the romance of adventure and the romance of the setting than in like specific romantic love, which I don't know. It's just not a big part of these movies.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. But I think I'd be more about warning her away from him than anything else. I just, I think I'd really just want to say, Padme, you can do a lot better than this petulant, whiny little mass murderer.
Yeah, go call one of the butt mouth guys.
Yeah, they seem to like you.
They at least have musical talent.
Well, in 2 hours, we've made it through.
Okay.
Do you guys have anything you want to bring up that we didn't bring up? We didn't talk about?
As an overview of this one, I think, you know, for a long time, I remembered episode 2 as being worse than it is. I had it in my mind. I thought it was my least favorite. But on recent viewing, I think it's definitely an improvement on episode 1. And I think the prequels get stronger as they go. And episode 3 is, for me, easily the best of them. But episode 2 is, I think, better than I had remembered, and it has a lot. There's a lot to criticize about it, and we've just spent a couple hours doing that. But it adds up to something a little more substantial and more enjoyable too for me than episode 1 does. And as I said earlier, I think it's the beginning of the prequels being visual masterpieces. It really is a beautiful movie to look at, with or without the sound on. It's better than I thought, but as with episode 1, I feel a little bit regretful that it's not better.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with every Star Wars movie, this one included, I like it a little more every time I watch it. And I'm better able to deal with the things that I don't like about it and not focus on those. There are still things that are, obnoxious, but that's probably true of almost every Star Wars movie. And this one I especially love because it is the corniest, the most Ed Wood of all of the Star Wars films. This one really hits that sweet spot nicely.
The more we watch this, I watched this several times, it seemed to get shorter and shorter to me the more I watch it. So that's a good sign. And we did actually, I turned it down on mute to do something, and we ended up watching it for a long time with the sound off. And it was very interesting because I knew everything that was happening. But then, yes, I did get to see it as a design piece, and I also didn't have to hear that guy's whiny voice. And so it just made it better. It really did. So those are my thoughts. I'm looking forward to the next one because it's my favorite. But before we go into the Sith, we're going to have Marc-Anthony Macon do a special themed presentation 2 weeks from today on the ancillary content. And right?
Is that weird? I thought next we were doing hated characters.
Hated characters. That's right.
Yeah.
That's
hated characters is what we're gonna. So we're gonna talk about Jar Jar and Ewoks, and I really want to bring Hoojibs up for people that want to get real esoteric.
We're gonna talk about Hoojibs. We're gonna talk about everything. So you guys come with questions about who the hell are these villains? I don't know, but they have butts for mouths. This guy.
They're not villains. They're musicians.
We play, man. So, and then finally the results of our bingo. I did not win bingo. I almost did.
What did you get?
If one of you had said there was no protagonist, and no, you got very close, that Obi-Wan should have been the lead in this, I would have had bingo. These are the things you did say. Carrie Fisher. Who wears
that? Was the whole thing?
This is, huh?
Carrie Fisher? You're just waiting for one of us to say Carrie Fisher?
Yep, somebody said, no, we said Carrie Fisher at the end.
Okay.
Who wears that and/or that's an appropriate dress for the situation? Marc-Anthony, I went ahead and used your comments up. Had me there. Rogue One was said. Natalie Portman's stomach, we talked about.
But I do that daily anyway, and who doesn't?
The name Newt Gunray. The use of lighting was actually specifically said when we were talking about Camino.
Mm-hmm.
It's sand, it's coarse, and it gets everywhere. Somebody said that. And something that got torn up, but it was crossed out. So those are the things I almost got bingo on.
Excellent.
That's it. That's what I got.
All right.
Anyone who joined us, thank you. And come back in 2 weeks to see Marc-Anthony host his amazing tales of the most hated characters Star Wars has, which inevitably he loves.
It's true. It's true. I am going to be a total Ewok apologist, y'all.
I'm looking forward to that. That'll be our first theme episode.
Woo!
And in the meantime, folks at home, if you're looking for more about Faces of Stone, if you visit facesofstone.space, you can see our full schedule, when to expect each episode, and the themes, and more information, including all of our back catalog of episodes talking about this, and also our Twin Peaks The Return series from 2017. If you're interested in the three of us, you can find us on all the social medias. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, I don't know, but these are our Twitter handles just to keep things simple. M_A_Macon, president of Sisk, and Noah Diamond. We will leave it to you to figure out which of these Twitter handles corresponds to which of the three of us.
Good night, everyone, and may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. We'll see you all
next time.
in 2 weeks.
on Faces of
Faces
Stone.
of
Stone.
Stone.